So I really liked Kettle Creek State Park. I loved the remoteness. I loved feeling like I was out in the wilderness. What I didn't love was the black flies, and I guess that's depending on the weather. I hear they're worst when it's humid, and it was very humid. We had just had a big rainstorm. We went to 4 sites, and this was the most remote site that we were in, and yet I think it had the best bathroom. We also had electric at this site. So like I said, aside from the flies, it was great.
We covered over 1,000 miles on this trip, so we got to see an awful lot of beautiful scenery from the highways. But particularly beautiful were the side trips to some of these vistas in the areas that we were at. Kettle Creek particularly. It was so calming to sit up on top of those mountains and just look at those majestic views and not have to think about all the crisis and everything else with the pandemic that's going on in the world around us day to day when we're home.
I was real happy to leave the flies behind us in Kettle Creek State Park. Buttermilk Falls State Park was very nice. The waterfall was beautiful. The campground, there was no electric, so we had to use our generator. But it cooled off a little. It wasn't as humid, so we didn't really need the air that much. But it was a nice place, mostly tents there, but it was very nice. This campground was different from most places we go because it was very close to the town right there. You could hear the traffic on the roads. It was funny, we actually saw somebody order takeout and they had it delivered to their tent. I was cracking up.
In addition to our trips to the vistas, one of the other areas that was really beautiful was when we were up in the Cayuga Lake area in New York, in the New York wine country. And one of the things that of course we had to do was go to one of the wineries and do a wine tasting. Our choice randomly was to go to Long Point Winery, which is on Lake Road in Aurora, New York. And then we realized that we were only 9.5 miles away from the tallest single drop waterfall east of the Rocky Mountains.
Then we headed further up north to Selkirk Shores, which is on Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario was impressive. It's huge. It looks like an ocean. We were only there one night. It was interesting. We had a tent camping next to us, and they actually had a parrot with them, and I took a little video of that. I never camped next to a parrot before, but that was kind of cool. And our last stop was Crane Point State Park, which is on the St. Lawrence River. And I believe it's maybe 5 miles from Canada. So you're way up there. Actually, they have a Canadian flag and an American flag there. The campground was beautiful. It even had a laundromat there. I really, really enjoyed it there. And we went to see Boldt Castle. So it was great there. So after 8 days on the road, we headed back home, and of course we had some issues traveling back home. I'm going to let Rick fill you in about that.
Our most recent trip here had a few incidents, the first of which was the announcement as we sat in the driveway preparing to depart. One of the parks that we had reservations at was closed due to an emergency because the road washed out from the heavy rains they had up there. Other than that, the whole trip was pretty uneventful until we started on our return trip home. The first incident occurred at a Denny's where we got into the back parking lot and the driveway was closed so that I had to turn around. I couldn't go around the building to leave. And in turning around, I cut the van a little too sharp and broke my toolbox loose from the tongue. Then later on in the day, we had to stop for gas up in the Scranton area, and as I pulled into a gas station up there, I saw what was looked like a puddle alongside the driveway, and I just glanced at it and then was looking forward at the pumps to determine where I was going to pull in. And Sharon realized that that puddle was an actual pothole, but unfortunately, by the time she hollered, it was too late. The right tire on the trailer hit the pothole, and I proceeded up to the pump, got out, and at that point, the tire on the trailer was going flat because the rim was bent. So we didn't bother filling the tank with gas for fear the tire would be completely flat. But we got enough gas to get us home, and then I pulled over to the side of the building to change the tire and couldn't get the tire off because the lugs had been put on by a service station that used an air impact gun, and I didn't have a jack lug wrench other than the one for my truck, which was too heavy duty and it wouldn't fit onto the nuts because of the way the grease bearing that projects out of the hub was in the way, and there wasn't enough distance or clearance for a lug wrench to fit. So we were in the process of calling around and locating a lug wrench that we could use for the lugs when someone pulled up to the pumps, and Sharon went over and he helped us out by providing a battery operated impact gun and a socket that I was able to take the wheel off and put it on no problem. So we got the spare mounted and got ready to leave, and as I looked at the trailer tire, it seemed to no longer be vertical. It had some negative camber to it, meaning the bottom was cocked outward. And I wasn't sure what the problem was, whether we cracked something or bent the spindle or what. So we had to like take it slow starting out and stop and check it every few miles. And that's when I realized that the axle was probably bent. The tire was mounted tightly, securely, so I didn't have to worry about that. But we did get off of the interstates and took back roads home the rest of the way so that we weren't driving at such high speeds with that tire. And it took us about an extra 3 hours to get home that night. We ended up having to take it into the shop and get a new axle put in.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Jay here,
Hey, Jay.
Plains, PA, helping a good friend out with a flat tire.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So tell us about your business.
We do long-term and short-term rentals for Airbnb. Our website is holidaykeepers.com. You come on and find multiple different houses, different sizes, pools, no pools, jacuzzis, lakefronts, in the middle of the woods, whatever you need, just let us know.
And I want to give a high five and a fist bump to Jay. Thank you so much for stopping to help us out. You saved us hours on the road.
Yes, thank you, Jamal. I don't know what I would have done without you and your impact gun. I really appreciate the fact that you were such a good Samaritan. So many, many thanks.
Thanks, Jay. Your impact gun made a big impact. Don't forget, guys, this was just an overview, so we're going to have videos of all these places, which is going to be about 5 videos coming up, including one of Boldt Castle. So check them out. Thank you. That's a wrap, everyone. You know what to do if you like this video.